U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Only with crazy like a.
Oh fuck. Okay,
wait,
I'm ready
no.
for it. No, I'm ready.
Wait,
I'm
we're
ready
doing it
for it.
now?
Let's go. Yes,
Okay.
let me see Mama.
All right, I'm gonna mark it.
On having an audience, can a world exist where folks call Israel Nazis? Blood will be on his hands. Bro, what are you talking about? We're in the eve of a 6-year-old Palestinian being
this
stabbed
is
to
like,
death 26 times by their landlord in the supposed.
This is like one of the Hassan re-uploaders.
Yeah.
So like this is like they do like it's gonna be more of like a compilation and much more watchable.
Okay.
A day of jihad, and you're over here being like, blood is on my hands. If you're
The day of
defending
jihad-
Israel's actions right now, blood is already on your hands. All right, let's look at some of this consistent propaganda going on.
Israel provides militants
That's not true. Sometimes they will. There will be like one thing from like 2009 or something that they'll always point to. They'll be like, "Well, we actually did see weapons."
That was coming that they feared mongered about. Look, he even flipped the angle. Such work goes into this guy's editing.
In one of these facilities, so it's actually justifiable that the entire Gaza
makes a
Strip
watchable video
deals with
sometimes.
weapons. Sometimes they edit videos. That's also true. You know,
So far, the best they can do is share these photoshopped images. See, the building is red. That means Hamas is there.
after providing advanced warnings to civilians in time to evacuate, IDF fighters just struck that multi-story building containing Hamas military intelligence assets. The building contains civilian media offices, which Hamas hides behind and deliberately uses as human shields. Bullshit.
You know, for all of Israel's sophisticated surveillance technology with eyes over every single inch of Gaza, you'd think that they'd be able to produce more than cartoons. And
Israel uses weapons to protect its civilians. Hamas uses civilians to protect its weapons. Hamas puts Palestinian civilians in the line of fire. This is PragerU, bro. Look at this. It's IDF propaganda, but it is basically PragerU. It's so funny. God, I just, it's so laughable if it wasn't so gross and inhumane. You know what I mean?
And doctored graphics.
Look,
in fact,
man,
the only proof
that's
they have
Mama,
provided so far
okay?
are fake videos of Hamas rockets in residential areas. On May 15th, the IDF published a video of an Israeli training operation using a Hamas decoy.
I want her to talk dirty to me so bad,
She's
bro.
the best of it. She's the best.
I just want her to tell me about how, like, all the sins of imperialism and why Russia good.
Claimed it was an actual Hamas missile
Okay,
launch
Hassan,
against civilians.
you're one to
Another
laugh
lie,
at me.
Netanyahu's spokesman tweeted a video claiming it was Hamas firing rockets next to an apartment building. Turns out this was a video from 2018 in Syria. So where's the
Why is the stream so biased? There are a lot
Bro,
actually.
no
Brother,
way.
What do you mean?
That's,
I am literally, yes, I am
no
biased.
way. The fucking IRGC network, all they do is post Syria footage saying it's Palestine. Like, what the fuck, Abby? Oh my God.
Okay, I'm biased. I'm
Who
biased.
did that
I'm biased
in
against
Syria?
killing babies. Okay, I don't think it's right when Hamas militants do it. I don't think it's right when Israel does it by the tenfold. Okay,
But
yeah,
wait, are we,
sorry,
Hassan,
I
are
know
we gonna
I'm a bit
talk about
biased
that
towards baby
Syria thing? That Hassan, that Syria thing she said about 2000. Who did that?
Who done it?
murder. It's kind of up. I know. Are you not? Is that the argument here? You're like, no, you don't understand. These babies needed to be murdered. They're child shields. They're baby shields.
actual evidence? If they cannot provide any, their claims must be investigated and brought to a trial. Even if there was evidence that Israel was hitting legitimate military targets, it still is illegal to kill such an outrageous amount of civilians. And you can't legally blow up a hospital. Even
I left those comments about Jewish minority yesterday, and I don't want to spread hate or misinformation. Jews live for much longer in harmony with others, so my fear is irrational. I'm glad we love a king that engages in
Hospitals are
self-reflection. You know what
known
I'm
to
saying?
explode spontaneously.
And
even if there are militants nearby. Either way, Israel should not be allowed to be above the law.
That's the
What
other
about
side. Is like,
Russia?
even if there are human shields, like you can't kill them. Like, why are we jumping over that point? It blows my mind that we just jump over that point. You cannot kill the human shield. Like, that's bad guy
What
shit. That's not
about-
good guy shit.
Hey Hassan,
We
hey
shouldn't take
Hassan,
Israel.
what about when ISIS was retreating and they held the people of those cities hostage and released those hostages and ran out with them, right? And like partisans, like the PMF backed by Iran, killed those people who ISIS was using as human shields. What about that? Do we care about that?
Those claims of human shield at face value because they have an extensive history of lying about it.
It's true.
I think the most irrefutable example are their killings at Gaza's Great March of Return.
Not only do they have a
documented
history
in
of
our
lying
film,
about it,
Gaza-
what's actually interesting is like if you look at like studies and stuff like that, there's a literal incident that's documented, I think, in the Second Intifada
Mhm.
where, and it might have just been something that happened in general news, but Israel IDF got into a gunfight and physically picked up a Palestinian child using it as an actual human shield.
Mhm.
So, if we want to talk about human shields, what happened there? Who's picking up children and using them as actual flesh shields, bro?
The fights for freedom. At this great march, Israeli snipers directly targeted and killed 183
She made a
unarmed
documentary about
demonstrators,
the March of
including
Great
35
Return. It's
innocent
so good.
children.
It's
Oh,
just
really?
there's a lot of Hamas apologia and saying that they're
Mm.
not anti-Semitic and stuff, but it's focused on like this medic who gets shot at these protests, and
Yeah.
then Israel they do a great job showing like Israel literally doctored her footage to release it that she was saying that she was a human shield and stuff.
Fucking hell.
But it's a great documentary where they're actually taking footage from inside Gaza. So they worked with a producer inside Gaza to make this documentary. So
Crazy.
they were filming the march and did the interviews with people and like showing people who like need to like get legs replaced and they're basically going to
Yeah.
die, won't be granted stuff. Like, and then it ends with the March of Great Return and this medic who's like one of the like more modern, generally accepted martyrs, just like the
Mhm.
journalists, right? So like these two figures, when they killed the journalist, people were crying out saying, "Oh, it's just like that medic who died too." And I'm not
Mhm.
names because I just don't want to confuse too many people. I try to keep it
Yeah.
as trying to second thought it and
Mhm.
be as general as possible.
Yep. I'm just gonna play. I need to make a phone call quickly.
Mhm.
These protests, journalists, march press, medics performing medical aid, a man in a wheelchair, and so many more. But Israel said they were all human shields.
Yeah.
So
So like, what? How can you ever believe the human shield rhetoric after they blew up the Associated Press building, brother? Or after they have time and time again lied openly and been disproven openly? Like after the 7,000th time, I'll be like, okay, dude, well, I don't think these are human shields. I don't think you should shoot them even if they were, but I don't even believe that there are human shields in this circumstance. I think you're just killing Palestinians. And it's not like they're hiding it. That's what blows my mind. Look, this is not 2018, okay? This is not 2018. This is not 2020. This is 2023, okay? This is 2023. The officials are openly saying we must raise Gaza. They've shut off all the electricity and all the power and all the food. Like, what argument do we have here? Sorry, they were asking for it. Is like a ridiculous take. I don't believe that it is acceptable to kill human shields regardless, but I don't believe the human shield propaganda either. And also, they
He
don't
always
even do
does
that
this and
propaganda
bends
anymore.
his
And you guys are
fingers
still,
so far
some of you are
back.
still in here being like, yeah, well, what about the human shields argument? And it's like, but they're not even making that anymore. They have starved out Gaza for the past 3-4
This is so
days
well
now.
edited.
Water has run out. There's no water in Gaza. They had to open up water in the south so they can forcibly move the civilian population into the south after they
Keeping
told
the
the civilian
pace with these
population
quick
to evacuate to
cuts
the
and
south
stuff,
and
great.
blew up one of the convoys.
it was all legitimate. Here's where they really exposed themselves. According to international law, human shield applies to civilians as collateral damage when you're targeting military forces in combat. But at the Great March protests, there were no militants, nobody shooting at Israelis, nobody with weapons, no targets remotely connected to military
not true.
operations. So if all of those children, medics, journalists, and
That
disabled
doesn't
people
it doesn't
were human
justify what
shields,
Israel
who were they
did, but
shielding?
it's not
Even when
true.
they killed celebrated female medic Razan al-Najjar, they released a propaganda video saying she was a human shield. But shielding what? Under no circumstances would killing that many civilians at an unarmed protest, with the defense that they were
Ridiculous, isn't
human
it?
shields for non-existent military targets, hold up for a second in a war crimes tribunal. Today, Israel relies on the fog of war to make this claim seem possible. But just 2 years ago, Israel showed an irrefutable pattern of lying about human shields, and now they have zero credibility. Point 3. According to Israel's own definition of human shield, every man, woman, and child in Gaza is a human shield. They claim that anyone in the vicinity of not only Hamas missile sites, but Hamas offices,
You know
Hamas
how great
individuals is a
this would
human shield.
actually
This includes
be
Hamas members who are
if her
sleeping at home
reputation
with their
wasn't
families
destroyed by
and
being a gross
surrounding houses.
sadist.
This includes anyone within a mile of any Hamas institution, which is literally all of the 2 million people who live there. Look, Hamas is the government of Gaza.
Yeah.
Therefore, any civilian infrastructure is considered Hamas.
Yeah, the hospital says Hamas outside of it because Hamas runs the hospital. It's the health ministry. And then motherfuckers go, well, shouldn't have made Hamas the health ministry. It is a disgusting way to justify civilian murder. Okay, that's it.
Infrastructure, everything from transportation to healthcare. So anyone in the vicinity of those things or people can be killed with impunity. Even Israel's Minister of Defense confirmed that this is indeed their view, stating on May 18th that, quote, no person, area, or neighborhood in
This
Gaza
is the
immune
opposition
from
guy
airstrikes.
now.
How is it in any way acceptable that Israel can categorize every human being in Gaza a legitimate target? They could kill everyone in Gaza, and it would be justified. Point 4. If you accept Israel's definition of human shield, then you have to accept that Israel is using human shields as well. Armed Israeli soldiers are everywhere among civilian areas. Not only that, but their military bases are nestled in densely populated residential areas. For example, the Israeli Defense Forces main headquarters is smack dab in the middle of a residential sector of Tel Aviv, and a major shopping center. Does anyone accuse Israel of using human shields? Another example, the Israeli army.
Would anyone think it's fucking
did.
fair if
I just accused them of using a human shield. I did. A literal one.
Hamas somehow figured out a way to bomb the fuck out of that and reduce it to rubble? Would anyone think that that's appropriate? We know what people's perspective is. We saw it. Round condemnation. Understandable for the acts that the militants engaged in on October 7th. Round condemnation from the entire world, which is perfectly fair and perfectly understandable. Okay. However,
more acceptable if Hamas was able to destroy a building. Like if they even if they did it with charges and leveled the building that way or something like that, because they obviously don't have planes, I think that would be far more acceptable than what they did on October 7th. So
there is no such condemnation for Israel's actions. It's crazy because people do not see Muslims as human beings.
Army broadcasts from a residential apartment tower with antennas on the roof. If Hamas leveled that building, does anyone doubt it would be deemed a war crime? What we have here is a double standard. Israel wants the human shield defense for them to be any civilian they kill, but for any civilian killed by Hamas, it's a war crime. You know, the purpose of international laws of war is to create a standard that's applied
what really
to all
lacks
sides,
in a lot of this
Israel
coverage,
and the
because
United States have a difference.
obviously when we talk this is why I actually like Abby, because she is able to draw from enough of the truth that a majority of what she said is very convincing. She's very good at doing it, and it's not so disingenuous like everyone else. She's very passionate. You can tell she actually does care about Palestine and stuff. But the thing is, it's why do you have to fucking be evil and associate yourself with Assad just to be this good at advocating for Palestinians? Why can't she just advocate for Palestinians this well and also acknowledge fucking war crimes elsewhere? It just annoys me with these people. And then also
in comparison to someone like Russell Brand, who also does this, except very badly, he will also draw from truths or he'll bait libertarian types.
He's just talking nonsense half the time.
Yeah.
She's talking actual facts for a majority of what she says here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is the difference, right? Is Russell Brand will pull from these libertarian talking points and these
he'll do
these
half
buzzwords.
Half truths and shit. Well, that's how a lot of these people are, right?
Yes, it's the information warfare tactics. It's all half truths. Because if you play off a little bit of truth, you can be like, oh, this is here, and then they start expanding and connecting dots that don't exist, and then you get the biolabs in Ukraine targeting Slavic people.
But it's it's coverage like this that makes me say people specifically Abby is necessary in the landscape we have. She is. She's not, and at the same time, I fucking hate her because she goes and I hate everyone. Because they're either justifying Israel or doing something else. But what I wanted to say is that what really lacks is the complete analysis of the situation, right? The reason why Israel can get away with war crimes and Palestine can't is because of, you can totally frame it into Hassan should pick this up and be because of capitalism. Could totally be a valid angle that you could take with that, right? Yep. But it's the power backers, right? The states supporting states against something that's not a state.
Yeah. Again, power hierarchies, dynamics. It all leads back to this.
Hamas doesn't have the luxury to commit war crimes.
Yeah,
like Israel
so
does.
It's all, yeah. We gave up on Russell Brand once it came out that he was raping people. So
yeah. Also, it was just too painful to watch and go through. It's just all so intense and coming at you.
Mm-hmm. view that the rules only apply to their enemies. Point 5. If everyone in Gaza is
There
a
is no
legitimate human
rules.
shield, that's only because of Israel's own design. This is a situation of Israel's own making. Israel drew the borders, and Israel refuses to let anyone leave. To leave Gaza, you must get approval from the Israeli government. And
The chair will
government
advise
always
that the
say
rules
no.
do
So
care.
what are people supposed to do who want to remove themselves from the carnage? They have literally nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Israel has made Gaza, in every sense of the term, an open-air prison. They trap 2 million civilians in this tiny strip of land. Then they bomb their neighborhoods and say, well, they shouldn't have been there. The mountain of civilian dead has to be looked at through the perspective of the Israeli blockade and the inability of
I
anyone
agree.
to escape. Resistance forces in Gaza have nowhere else to go to. Gaza's self-defense capabilities are confined to this heavily populated area. And Israel has intentionally made Gaza unlivable. The only way Gaza is able to exert pressure on Israel is by firing rockets. If they peacefully protest their conditions, they're massacred just the same. If they do nothing, Israel continues to blockade them, erode their living conditions.
Didn't answer the question about why Israel doesn't want Palestinians to leave. Hello? They want to fucking kill them. They want to kill them. They want to kill them super hard. They want to fucking bomb them super duper hard and then allow the humanitarian corridor to take foot so that they can just turn around and say, look how humanitarian we are, that we did a humanitarian corridor. We put them on fucking trains and moved them.
Airstrikes. Bomb them. Bomb them. Keep bombing them. Bomb them again and again.
Exactly.
Into a different area.
That's
is
it,
an argument that would
no
not
more military aid.
Hopefully.
work for Nazi Germany and it should not work for Israel. Okay, the humanitarian thing to do in that situation is to stop bombing. What the fuck?
While ethnically cleansing the rest of their land. Israel
And
has
then he walks
made
away.
the
He's
only
like,
leverage Gaza has
look at
to
the-
God, that's
Even-
so funny.
is using the one weapon it has. Besides, Gaza has the right to self-defense
That is
under international law.
hilarious.
And contrary to what Israel claims, the current round of fighting was started by Israel, not Hamas, when they deployed criminal violence against Al-Aqsa and Sheikh Jarrah. And right at
Okay,
the
this is
outset,
where
on
I'll
May
stop
12th,
you.
Hamas
Nope. Bullshit. No.
Mm.
For starters, it's perfectly fine to recognize this like a fucking normal person and say that October 7th wouldn't have happened. It's not like 9/11, right? Where it's like 9/11 was a control, like communists want to be like, oh, it's because capitalism fucked these countries. No, shut up. You don't understand what you're talking about. Okay. But when it comes to the context of Gaza, right? The conditions that are in are obviously responsible for that incident to take place. That doesn't mean the incident taking place was good or an act of revolution or anything like that. Any more than bombing them is an act of revolution or good. And like, it's not like, oh, I'm playing both sides. It's bad when both sides do it. Well, no, because I understand that Hamas's intention was to drag this into a war that would get people killed in Gaza, right? So yes, the other pathways haven't worked. And like I've already said, bombing a building is more acceptable than what would have happened on October 7th. Suicide bombing, way more acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
a ceasefire to Israel.
a general,
rejected it
like
because they
even
wanted
like
to keep going
general
despite
terrorist attacks, you know,
their rhetoric of
like what
only
did you
wanting the rockets
expect was going to
stop. So
happen?
if
Exactly what did happen, and that's what their
Yeah.
intention was.
Mhm.
This is like this. Then this is where the human shield narrative starts. Is with Arafat back in the day in Lebanon. He would rocket Israel. They would bomb him back. He'd film the dead civilians, and this worked. The reason why Arafat made so much progress was using this narrative when he was actually like exploiting this human shield narrative, right? So Israel like basically made this thing to constantly say human shield, so these tactics won't work. But anyone who has humanity and actually sees the carnage, it is going to work on them because they are being ruthless. Like they were probably being ruthless bombing Arafat back then, killing Lebanese civilians too.
Israel's going to keep bombing, Gaza has no choice but to fight back, and that in turn
I
becomes
agree
the excuse for Israel
that they
massacring
do
so-called
have
human
they have
shields.
no choice
Human
to
shield
fight
propaganda
back.
Oh, look, he's eating.
has been long applied by the empire to dehumanize the enemy in nearly every major world conflict or war, from its atrocities in Korea to Iraq.
I'm just
and it
saying,
always
like,
serves the same purpose: to
Hamas,
dehumanize.
why didn't you attack a prison and liberate Palestinians there?
Yeah, that's a
Why
fair
didn't you
point.
do that? Oh, because that would actually advance like an agenda, like freeing Palestinian Nelson Mandela figures. That wouldn't help you, would it? It wouldn't help
Word.
your agenda, would it?
Nope. Where's that agenda? Who's that agenda set by? Netanyahu.
Well, no, I'm talking Hamas. Hamas's
Yeah.
agenda.
So am I.
Oh, so he's setting their agenda. Okay.
entire populations, giving the perpetrators a free pass to act with total disregard for civilian life. What the Israeli government is
Obviously,
trying
I'm
to do
being
is cover up what their
facetious.
military is actually doing, which is indiscriminate bombing. That seems glaringly apparent, and international law is very clear about indiscriminate attacks.
He did
being
prop
a
him
war
up,
crime,
though.
strictly prohibited
It
in
is his
any
fault.
situation. To sum it all up, it is completely outrageous to let Israel make this blanket claim to absolve itself of any wrongdoing.
Great
All of those
addition,
lives
son.
taken
You're doing
had
well.
value. They all
Great
had
content.
families. They all had futures they
Thanks,
were
Abby.
robbed of.
Only with crazies like Hassan having an audience can a world exist where folks call Israel Nazis. Peddling biased takes in a situation like this is deadly. Blood will be on his hands. Bro, what are you
Israel
talking about?
are
We're in the
Nazis.
eve of a fucking 6-year-old Palestinian being stabbed to death 26 times
Well-
by their fucking landlord in the supposed day of jihad. And you're over here being like, blood is on my hands. Bitch, if you're defending Israel's actions right now, blood is already on your hands. What the fuck do you mean? It's so utterly gross, dude. It is so disgusting. Show me specifically what they said is racist type beat. Yeah, 100%. You know why? It's so identical to the arguments that reactionary
referenced the Protocols
weirdos
of
fucking
Elder
put
Zion.
forward.
I mean, I
okay?
wrote that
You want to know why?
That's a great book.
I love the idea of like claiming that Israel does not have an interest in ethnic displacement of Palestinian people, since when the entire nation state's development started with ethnic displacement of Palestinian people. And it's pretty funny to say that, but the reason why it's identical to the show me specifically where they said that is racist, did they ever say the N-word type argument, is because Israel is a fascist project. That's it. That's why. Because you cannot have an apartheid state that is not inherently fascist. You cannot have a religious ethno state that is not inherently fucking fascist. The maintenance of an apartheid state is always going to be violent because violence is required for the maintenance of an apartheid state.
Hey,
That's it.
I
And there are plenty of examples of
Hang on. I agree, but I think like theocracy in general, not even just a religious ethno state, but a theocratic state in general, is still fascist, even without the ethno mentality.
Yeah.
I haven't seen otherwise, so.
Ben Gurion and numerous other fucking leaders and founding fathers, including Theodore fucking Herzl, who has said that this is a colonial project. So I don't know why you're fucking coming in here if you don't know what the fuck like the founding creed is of the development of an Israeli nation state being a colonial project when the founding fathers of Israel themselves said that it was so. I don't know who you're arguing against. So ask yourself, why are you still so defensive? Why are you defensively posturing? Seriously, Sex Machine 69, a beacon of shining light in this fucking chat, a brilliant interlocutor.
that.
It makes no sense. New Philosopher King, Sex Machine. Yeah.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?